welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be setting up my notebooks for the month of February, and I thought I would go through and show you the entire process that I usually do for picking out my color themes. And this month is going to be inspired by a oceany whale space kind of theme. And this notebook has color swatches for all of my Tombos and Crayola super tips, so that way I know which colors are which, because sometimes the ink color does not match the actual barrel of the pen. I also grabbed some construction paper that I think is going to match the look of this theme. I'm not sure which ones I'm going to use yet, but I pulled out a couple. And then I'm just using this extra notebook that I have in my folio, and I'm going to swatch some colors on it to figure out exactly which markers I want to use. This is what I usually do, I just don't usually show it on video, but I thought I would show it today to show you how I usually go about finding my exact colors. So I am grabbing a very dark Crayola super tip, and then I am just comparing the two Tombos to that dark super tip. And I'm not sure if you can really tell, but the one that I swatched on the left hand side is a slightly more green. So I decided not to use that one because I wanted to stick with blue. And then I also got another Crayola in a very dark purple. And then I got a Tombow in a bright fuchsia pink. And I think the pink is going to be nice to just contrast a little bit. I'm not going to use it very much, but just to add a little bit of pop and have a little bit of color that's not just blue. Once I was done swatching the colors, I put this back into my folio and then flipped to the first new page in my notebook, where I will be sketching out the monthly layout for February. You're going to see me flip back and forth between January and February a lot because I always go back to recount and make sure I have my spacing correct, because if I don't, I will mess it up. And this layout is actually going to be almost the exact same as January's layout, although I did forget that February only has 28 days, so the columns can both be an even 14, which was really satisfying, but I did mess it up the first time. The calendar on the left-hand side is going to be similar to last month's. Each day is a 2x2 square, and I mainly have this calendar just so that way I know which date is which day. So I'll be like, the 5th, what day is that? Oh yeah, it's Saturday, because otherwise I will not remember. And then I'm just using a Tombow mono pen. I believe it is the 02, but I'm not really sure. It's their second smallest, and I'm using that to write down the dates on the dates to remember page, and then I'm just going to use that bright fuchsia Tombow to draw a straight line between the numbers and where I'm going to be writing the events. I don't usually use rulers, but I wanted the lines in this setup to be really crisp, so I used a ruler for a lot of things this time, but you definitely don't need to. Underneath the dates to remember, I just wrote that an open circle is for a post and a filled-in circle is for a reel. It's just a reminder for me, basically. And then I'm using that same Tombow mono pen to fill in the calendar dates on the top left corner and also to outline the calendar. I like the calendar to just be very simple and open, so I don't usually do too much to it. On the bottom half of the page, I am sketching out a whale in pencil, and then I'm going to use the Tombows and Crayolas to color it in a minute, and then I will be using a Tombow water brush pen to kind of turn those markers into more of a watercolor look. This did take a while, so it is sped up quite a bit, so if you want to draw or paint something in a similar style to this, just know it's going to take a while. I think in all, with all of the watercoloring that I did, I had almost 3 hours of footage, so this definitely is not a super fast process. So if you were wanting to draw something like this, just be patient and know that it does take a while. It is kind of a nice way to relax and just sit down and have some fun for a little while, though. I also decided I wanted to get my actual watercolors, so I went and grabbed those really quick, and also some gel pens, because I thought some gel pens might be fun to make it have more of a spacey look. I did look through a couple of my watercolor options before I decided to use this set from Arteza. This is their 36 watercolor pan set, which is one of my favorite watercolor sets ever. If you really enjoy watercoloring, I would definitely recommend checking these out. I did a sort of modified wet on wet for this painting process. I basically just put a lot of water on the page and only used a little bit of the paint pan. It makes it have a more transparent look, and I thought it was a better look for this mix of ocean space. And I did use a lot of water, so if you're using a thin notebook, this is definitely going to soak through. I have this heat embossing tool which I use for drying my watercolors. Please be very careful if you do this, it gets very hot. After After I finished blow drying it, I used the Tombow Mono pen to outline the whale a little bit and give it a little more crispness. And I also went in and gave it a little bit of detail with this metallic silver painter's pen, as well as scattering sparkles all over the page. And then I just went back and forth between some markers, adding some sparkles and dots and detail to the page. There's not really a proper way to do this, just kind of do whatever seems fun. You'll see I added some metallic to the whale, just because why not? After all of the watercolor was dried, I used the same silver metallic paint pen to write February along the header, and I also grabbed some washi tapes that matched this silver ocean theme and put them on the page in a few places. I think these are all from Amazon, so I will link them in the description box if I can remember the exact listings. I used some more watercolor to splatter a pinkish red on the page that matched the color of the Tombow I wrote with earlier, and then I'm using a Tombow monoliner again to write dates to remember along the top of the page, and a Tombow Fudenosuke hard tip to outline the whale a little bit and give it some more texture and definition. I also added some random dots and stars and sparkles around the page. I tore up some black construction paper and taped it into these pages using a Tombow Mono adhesive. They are a really great buy if you like to scrapbook or do anything similar. It's like glue, but much cleaner and easier to use. It does stick really well, so you can't really change your mind after you tape it down, so be sure of how you want things to be taped. I also added some washi tape to add a little bit of extra sparkle, and then I drew this moon using the silver pen again, but it looked really weird, so I ended up peeling up the washi tape and covering up the moon with some of the washi tape because it just looked strange. Also, these black pieces are going to be for my trackers, so I wrote vitamins already, and then I'm drawing a different moon on the other side. I wasn't entirely sure what all I wanted to track yet, so I didn't fill the rest of this page out yet. I added a little more blue watercolor to give it a little bit more color variation, and I also added some very dark purple, as well as adding watercolor along the top, which I hadn't done at all earlier. The next page is all of my other trackers, which I've explained in detail in another video, so I'm not going to again, but I just sketch out in pencil the shape of the boxes. It is 28 days across, so 2 of the days are on the left page. I used a ruler and a Tombow Mono pen again. This is also the 02 size, and I am just drawing the boxes with a ruler to make sure they're very crisp, and then erasing all the pencil marks. I ended up deciding to use gel pens to fill in my habit trackers for this month. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but I drew an open circle that I'm going to fill in each day as I complete those habits. And I also decided to add reading because I'm hoping to read more books this year. So I thought maybe if I had a habit tracker, it would help remind me. So I just used pink for vitamins and then a sparkly blue for reading. I also used the pink gel pen on the top right of the page to add some sparkles and stars around the dates to remember title. After that, I flipped back to my other trackers page and tore up some black craft paper and taped it on. This is going to be a quote part of the page, but for now I am going to watercolor and add some more ocean designs. After adding a little washi tape along the top, I used the Tombow Mono pen and wrote the dates from 1 to 28 along the top of these trackers, and then I got out the fuchsia Tombow and I was writing a line in between Saturday and Sunday to mark the beginning of the week, and then I messed it up. After finishing that, I used the Tombow Mono pen again to write the numbers 10 to 1 and add a few dividing lines. I use this as a tracker from 1 to 10 of how I've been feeling, stress, mood, that sort of thing. And then I pulled out the markers that I used for marking on this tracker and wrote down what color is for what category. After that was finished, I used my pencil to sketch out a whale tail shape and then filled it in with the silver metallic pen. I also then used the Tombos, Crayolas, and water brushes to add some color around the edge of the tail, and then I watercolored a bit more on the rest of the page, as well as adding some silver sparkles going up the edge of the black construction paper. I wanted to write a quote on the black construction paper, but I didn't have one in mind, so I just scrolled through Pinterest looking at star quotes until I found one that I liked, which I then wrote on the construction paper using the silver metallic paint pen and writing in a standard all caps font and a simple cursive. After I finished writing the quote, I just added a few more doodles to the page to make it have some extra sparkle. The last thing I had to do in my bullet journal was make the first weekly spread of February, which I made by basically just dividing the page in half in both directions, and then using the metallic paint pen to draw straight lines in between what will be each of the days. The bottom right corner is not going to be a day, so I did not fully outline that one, but it is outlined on the sides that are touching the other days. I tore up some black construction paper and added it to each of the days of the week as a header, and then I will be writing on it using the silver metallic paint pen after it is taped down, and I wrote the abbreviated forms of the days of the week and then the date. I wanted to continue the ocean-themed watercolors, so after flipping back and forth a few times, I decided that jellyfish would look cute on this page and weren't too far off from the whale theme, so I just sketched in some jellyfish and then colored them in with watercolors and Crayolas. To cover up some of the water that bled through on the back side of the page, I put in some more construction paper, which is going to be on the second week of February. I did run out of monotape, so I had to kind of stick the paper in using washi tape, and then I just added a couple little doodles. Nothing too crazy because I'm mainly going to set this up during the second week of February. After I finished the doodles on this page, I went back to the page that has the jellyfish and continued watercoloring and adding some more texture and color variation. This was the last spread that I had planned to set up in advance for February, so after flipping back through and making sure that there were no weird errors, and also realizing that I used too much water and made the pages warp, which doesn't normally happen, I switched over to my Sermon Notes notebook, which is an 8x8 square Archer and Olive notebook, and I only set up the first page, which is a February calendar that is centered in the page, Each of the calendar squares are 2 by 2 with the date written in the center using a Tombow mono fine liner, and the silver paint pen used to write February for the title again. To outline the shape of the calendar, I used the Tombow mono fine liner and a metal bookmark that I have on my desk. After I finished outlining the calendar, I erased all the pencil, and you also might have noticed my very thin eraser. That is also from Tombow, and it is used for erasing detail spots. It's very useful if you like to draw with pencils. The last part of this page is a whale drawing and more watercoloring, which is pretty much the same thing as what I did in my bullet journal, just in a slightly different position. The last part of this setup was taping in some construction paper using washi tape so I can use it as a header whenever I know which day I'm going to be using this page on first. I'm not sure yet if it's going to be a Wednesday or a Sunday, so I didn't write the date in. Once I finished trimming all the washi tape, I used a little bit of water with some watercolor in it to splatter blue on the page just to keep the ocean theme going. And here we have a final look at all of the finished pages for February. Which one was your favorite, and what would you change if this was your setup? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you again for watching, and as always, I will have all the supplies that I can linked in the caption, and I would love to hear your feedback on this theme.